Good morning, everyone, except for those of you on the East Coast. I guess it's technically afternoon there. Thanks for joining us today for the holiday party do's and don'ts. That's me, that's my picture. I'm a real live human, and I put this deck together, and hopefully you'll find it entertaining and educational as we go through it. So it's hard to believe, but it's already kind of holiday season. And I mean, it's only October, what is today, the 11th? 20 more days, you're gonna start seeing Christmas stuff in the stores, I betcha. And my neighbors have had their Halloween decorations up probably for about 3 or 4 weeks already. So Halloween's here, end of the year is coming. And with all that, we get the holiday party season. So from Halloween to Festivus, everything in between, lots of companies choose to have get-togethers this time of year. Following, I'm just going to go over some tips and some things to keep in mind during the holiday party season and things to think about before and during holiday parties. All right, we're going to start with kind of a curveball first. We're going to talk about insurance. So now, before you have a party, it's a good time just to take a look at your insurance coverage to see if your policies cover you for any of the stuff we're going to talk about later today. If not, you might want to consider either adding coverage or changing coverage or talking to your broker about what you might be able to do to potentially save yourself some hassle and get yourself some insurance coverage if possible. Some things that I would consider checking would be your E&O coverage. Probably most importantly is your EPLI coverage, which is your employment practices liability insurance. Premises liability insurance if the party is going to be on in your office or in your workspace. Some general liability coverage, just in case of other things that aren't falling neatly under E&O or EPLI or premises liability. Work comp insurance, especially if the party is going to be on your premises. And finally, umbrella coverage for anything that's not covered or anything that would go above and beyond any of those claims. Those are all good things to check into to make sure that you have up to date, paid up, and have the coverage that you want going into these parties. The next thing, specifically that we're worried about with holiday parties is if the party is going to be held at your office. Just think about an employee could fall and injure themselves. The risk of this is going to go up with the more alcohol that is served. That's going to be a recurring theme today, alcohol and risk. To help minimize risks, if you do have it, if you do have the option to do it, consider doing the party off-site. That leaves you off the hook for any premises liability types of claims that might pop up, and any potential work comp claims that might pop up. Or, not everyone always has the budget to go rent out some fancy place or to do something off-site, or maybe you have the space available and it's already set up nicely for get-togethers. Pre-plan your party to minimize any potential hazards that might be there. Look around for trip hazards, look around for, kind of baby-proof it. I don't know how many of you have kids out there, but look around and think about maybe not what a toddler could into, but maybe somebody drunk and stupid might get into. Somebody maybe not even drunk, but just had a couple drinks and have a jovial atmosphere at the office and think something might be funny when it really isn't. So just think about those things. Take a critical eye to the space if you're going to do it in-house on site. Take a look at those things to make sure that there's going to be no lampshade wearing going on or anything silly like that. Again, alcohol. We're back to alcohol, even though I already mentioned it. Alcohol liability is going to be one of your biggest rocks in terms of a holiday party. So the laws on liability for injuries caused by alcohol consumption varies from state to state, but they're generally called social host laws or dram shop laws. What they essentially do is they hold the provider of alcohol liable for serving obviously intoxicated individuals and injuries that they caused when intoxicated. So, for example, if you go to a bar and you get overserved and you leave and you get into a crash and you hurt or kill someone, potentially the bartender could be held liable under dram shop laws for causing that injury. There's also common law negligence that you have to worry about. You know, just basically doing something stupid that you shouldn't have in terms of causing damages down the road. And finally, there's respondeat superior, which is a fancy Latin term, actually, it's 2 words. This legal theory holds the employer liable for acts of their employees. How do we reduce this risk due to alcohol? Well, number one, you could, if you really wanted to, not serve alcohol. I'm from Wisconsin, and I think that gets you revoked your license to operate in this state if you do that. So instead of maybe eliminating it completely, there's some other ways you could do it. So don't just leave the alcohol out for employees to self-serve. You know, hiring someone like a bartender to handle the bartending, or hold the event at an establishment where the serving can be done by their staff. That shifts the liability in terms of dram shop laws from you to them. Limit the amount of alcohol consumed. The easiest way to do that is to simply not serve alcohol. But again, if that's not something you want to do, consider giving out tickets, drink tickets, a limited number of drink tickets with which to procure alcohol. They trade the ticket in for a drink. And that way, if you only give them so many tickets, there's a limit in terms of how much someone can drink. Although I will admit, I have seen black markets at company parties where people will sell or trade tickets, but that's the exception rather than the rule. Number 2, don't make alcohol the focus of the party. Provide some entertainment, some food, some non-alcoholic beverage options so that employees can either pace themselves or don't have to just sit there and drink. And third, consider the timing of the event. Parties that occur earlier in the day are less likely to provide a venue or a place for employees to overconsume. I'm not saying you have to do it at 6:30 a.m. on Sunday morning, but the earlier in the day you're going to do it, the less likely employees are going to get hammered. Finally, have transportation home. Potentially consider reimbursing employees for cabs, Uber, Lyft, mass transit home after the party to make sure that everyone gets home safely. And I guess actually not finally, but finally use lookouts, have lookouts. Assign someone responsible, we'll get to this, overtime exempt, to watch out for other employees that may have had too much to drink. Ask other employees to come forward, you know, before the party if they think that a coworker is impaired. Nobody wants anyone to get arrested for OWI or DUI, and no one wants anyone to get hurt. Another legal trap for holiday parties are wage and hour claims. So attendants at the party can raise claims for pay by hourly employees, you know, or otherwise non-exempt employees if you use that fancy language. So to prevent those claims, my suggestion are to do the following. Number 1, be clear that the attendance is not mandatory. I mean, you can still ask that people RSVP to get a head count for food and stuff like that, but mandating attendance means that you would have to pay exempt employee or non-exempt employees for attendance. You can still say things like, hope to see you there, you know, we'd love to have you, but stay away from making attendance mandatory or else you could see a wage claim. Another way to avoid wage and hour claims is to have the party outside normal work hours to make sure that it's a clear delineation between work time and not work time, unless of course if you have it during the workday you're willing to pay your employees, which a lot of employers will do. But if you want to make sure that they're not going to get paid for it, just make it abundantly clear. And one way to do that is shift the timing of it. The third thing to do is and I think it seems obvious, but keep the party a party. Don't try to engage in business during the party, and don't ask employees to do anything at the party that would benefit you as an employer. Like, hey, I mean, I'm a lawyer, so I'm trying to imagine somebody say, can you just go write this brief for me real quick? That's not something that normal people have to deal with, but don't make them try to do anything in terms of productivity if they're an non-exempt employee. If you do that, the employee might have a claim that they had to work off the clock and should be compensated for it. All right, and finally, this is probably the biggest bugaboo in terms of holiday parties that pops up is sexual harassment. Another issue, again, that increases generally based upon the amount of alcohol that is consumed during the party. So even a little alcohol can lower inhibitions and cause issues. In a former life, I was a prosecutor, and we used to do, we got some training from the State Patrol about blood alcohol content, and you'd be surprised at how few drinks you need to lose coordination and judgment. It's well less than 0.08. I think impairment kicks in somewhere around the 0.02, 0.03, if I remember correctly. So when you've had some drinks, when you're in, a happy atmosphere, things that might seem funny, while you're under the influence of alcohol can be viewed as unwanted sexual advances or quid pro quo harassment of others. So even if nothing comes in the immediate aftermath of the party, like if nothing happens the next day and you're like, whew, you dodged a bullet, there was no sexual harassment at our party, a disgruntled employee could use this down the road. So even if nothing pops up right away, doesn't mean nothing happened. So to reduce the risk of harassment, be clear with all the employees that just because the party happens after hours or off-site, or that they're not performing work if it's happening during the daytime, that it does not exclude the employees from adhering to regular company policies. So company policies are still going to be in effect, harassment, discrimination, all that, anti-bullying, all those policies are still going to be in effect. So it's a good reminder in the invitations or in the run-up to any parties, just to remind employees that these things are still in place. And with that, my magic clock just tells me we hit 11:15, which is the time that I have for today. Thank you all for attending. If you have any questions, please let us know. Otherwise, we'll hope to see you next week or in the weeks to come with our future webinars. Thanks.